Welcome to the Wild Wisdom Podcast. I'm your host, Alyssa Finning. Today's guest is Marsha Pappas. She's a well-known yoga teacher, longtime yoga teacher in the Indianapolis community. In fact, she has taught many yoga teachers here in this community. And I wanted to bring her on today for all of the knowledge that she can share. She has shared with many people, and her love of the tradition of yoga, which is also one of my loves. So we're going to dive in with Marsha today and learn more about her background, how she got here, and why keeping the tradition of yoga and yogic practices is so important. Thank you, Marsha, for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. Nice to be here.
Good. When we're here in Indy at the Village Recording Studio, I'm able to be in person with a lot of people. And I really love that because I think the conversation flows much better sometimes than calling in. And then we get to actually see each other and bounce off of that. So what I like to start out with, and what the audience always likes to hear, is, how did you start with yoga? What led you to be the teacher you are today? And everybody has a story. So just sharing that story.
Okay. I started doing yoga when I was 17 years old by watching Lilius Yoga and You on PBS in Chicago, where I lived. She was doing it out of Cincinnati. Anyway, it was, kids struggling with self-esteem, body issues, all those things. And somehow doing that little practice with her made me feel good about myself in a way I hadn't in a long time. And so I got a couple books on the subject, and there were no yoga classes around to be had. I knew no one that did yoga. It wasn't popular then, so it wasn't like now where they grab their girlfriends and meet at yoga class instead of meeting somewhere else, which we used to do. Anyway, so I decided, years go by, found classes here and there, but I finally decided that I'd like to try teaching. So I found a training just outside of Chicago through the Himalayan Institute, and I started doing their training. And then because of geography and timing and things like that, I had to stop that. And then actually I moved to Indy, and I thought, well, I already gave up my life, and here I am. I know no one. So I found a training happening through Swami Satchidananda in Virginia, Yogaville Ashram.
Sure.
And I thought, well, I'll go do this. This is perfect timing. So I went off for a month, and I did that intensive training, and I discovered a whole new world that I knew nothing about, because for me, yoga was a physical practice, and I found out all of these other wonderful things it had to offer. And that's what really has grabbed me all these years and kept me in the teaching and in the exploration, and the passion of it all to me is in the philosophy and what is happening beneath the surface here.
And let's talk about that. So, what about the philosophy and what's happening beneath the surface, beyond the physical practice? And, what is it that grabs you about that? Or maybe even sharing with our audience, what is it that you share when you teach about that you really love?
Okay. Well, start at the definition. Yoga is the practice of quieting the chatter of the mind so that we can rise above the mind and tap into our true nature. Wow. A lot there. So it's not just the physical postures of doing yoga, right? The doing the yoga postures leads to the quieting of the mind, which leads you to discover your authentic self, which to me is the key. So keeping that in mind, no matter what you're teaching, makes it more powerful. The intention, I feel, of the teacher going in is you're teaching people yoga. You're not teaching yoga. You're teaching people to embrace this sense of yoga, the being state of yoga, which is using the verbal cues, teaching the little practices around the breath work and the meditation and the mindfulness and all these other things, always remembering the goal is to find the true self, to be more authentic.
Mm-hmm. I think that's important because yoga, especially in the West, and you've seen it, especially from when you started with Lilius Folan on PBS compared to when you got trained to now, or initially trained, and to now, like that big evolving, now there's a yoga studio almost on every corner, and it's a little crazy. Honestly, it's good because it's sharing this practice and this ancient wisdom with so many people. But what happens is, I think it's a good conversation, and I'm glad we're having this, is that there is ancient wisdom, and it is about finding tools or a path or whatever you want to call it, of connecting with your authentic self. But it's so often portrayed as just fitness. And even in many studios or gyms or wherever across the country and worldwide, it is still fitness.
Sure.
And so having you as a teacher out there protecting these traditions is very important, because then when people are ready to dive a little deeper, or you expose them through teacher training or whatnot, workshops, classes, then they can go inward and go deeper on that path of yoga. So talk about, what you have seen in this time you've been a teacher and practitioner in the, how yoga has evolved in what you see as more of the fitness and the physical wise, which isn't always terrible.
No, not at all.
Because it exposes. So maybe just expand
I feel the
on
same
that.
way. It's like when I started, like I said, I had no friends that did yoga. And for years, people teasing you, like, oh, you do yoga? Oh, weirdo, like, right? And then now it's like, oh, then it got to be my mom does yoga. My doctor said I should try yoga, or, oh, I've always wanted to try yoga, whatever. And so more and more people, more and more studios. And again, it got so big so fast, it seemed. From like 1 million people to 35 million people that we know of, doing yoga, all these studios. This is something that comes up for me, is that when you're like, oh, are we losing the integrity? Are we losing the whole essence of this thing and whatever? And then I remember something my teacher said. He said, give them what they want so that you can give them what they need. So that's what I keep saying. They want the physical practice. They want a way to burn off the toxins of the weekend or whatever the heck they're in there for. Yoga butt, whatever. But while they're in there, if I can keep them safe and present, they're going to start feeling something else. And they're going to start saying, what's that?
Yeah.
Why do I feel like this in yoga and I don't feel like this after whatever other class I'm taking? And then they start their exploration. And I think there's a lot of really good teachers out there that, even though they're teaching a really fitness-oriented class, can kind of sneak in those verbal cues about sensation, so that it's not the performance of the pose, it's what you're feeling in the pose. And then you start to develop a closer connection with your intuition, which really is the expression of that authentic self.
Yes.
Right?
For sure.
So we're teaching them through verbal cues that even if they're sweating and going crazy to hip hop yoga, which is fabulous fun, right? If a good teacher's doing that, you're taking them there.
Yeah, it's their entryway.
Yeah.
Because, when you said give them what you want and then give them what you need, I got chills, because I agree with that philosophy, because not everyone is ready or know exactly what they need.
Oh, yeah.
But if you just give them an opening or an entryway or some exposure, and then they go, I want more.
Right.
Like something that made me feel better.
Right.
Don't know what I'm really seeking. So they're not necessarily on that path as a seeker, but they're just looking for something, and they found it a physical way, a fitness way. And some people are ready and some people aren't. But yes, a good teacher, you can still teach a very fitness-oriented, strong, powerful yoga class and teach them. And I know when I teach people, it's teaching, not instructing. And I think that's the key, is actually sharing so that they can learn about themselves. And I know you agree with that. And rather than just instructing.
Totally.
There's a difference.
Oh,
there,
yeah.
and
One,
it's
you're,
very
you
important.
know, you might as well be doing Simon Says
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
music.
Yes,
you
and it's
know.
like the step aerobics instructor versus a yoga teacher,
Right.
sort of thing.
Well, you're sharing an energy and an experience, which is a very different thing.
Yeah, and I think that's
You know.
important for teachers to know when they're out there, that is key, is that's what makes people come back, because they discovered that, wow, something that, the your presence and whatever you're sharing, that sequence, whatever made me feel good, I'm coming back.
Oh, sure.
And I think that's very important.
We really stress it in our teacher training, because we teach a sequence so everyone can learn this.
Yeah.
But it's so interesting, and they all figure this out as they go along, is that the same sequence coming out of a different person has a different energy.
Yeah.
So we really talk about showing up, show up real, be comfortable, and they'll start being comfortable within themselves.
Yeah.
You're not
so
up
true.
there to show someday you'll be perfect like me. That is an energy not a lot of people want to be around.
Exactly.
Right? But when it's all good, it's all good. We're all here sharing this thing. Isn't it awesome? You know?
Yeah. Well, and then they find their own voice, and then people are attracted to that.
Yeah.
They're
And that
like,
authenticity.
Exactly.
It's that I feel this energy is real. It makes me okay with being real too.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
I completely agree. I was talking to an osteopathic physician that works with us this morning, and talking about the authenticity thing, or concept. And a lot of people, I was telling her, a lot of our students or people who work privately with me, they've told me, thank you for caring. Like, that always shines through. And I think that's important, that, whatever you're sharing, whether it's that deep caring or through your teaching, it's important, that authenticity part.
Very much
the
so.
integrity of it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you're teaching that, because I think that's important. I knew you were, but it's good to share that and say that out loud.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love the teacher training for that reason. It's like, not only do I give my opinion, which,
Which a
ask
lot of
me
people
again,
respect.
Yes. But it's just like, let's get it out here. We're not trying to be something, I talk about this idea. You're not trying to impress. You're trying to connect.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference in that. And I believe if you're trying to impress, you won't last long. You will burn out. Because you're second guessing, you're trying to perform. How draining that would be. Just show up, connect, share, and it's not about, they're going to love me. No one tells you how you're going to fall in love with them.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. I love the people that come to my classes. And you probably attract people like you when you're actually being you.
You do.
Right?
I notice that a lot.
Yeah.
Because a lot of my private clients and my students are like me. I know a lot of their stories. And then I'll see different teachers, and it's funny, I notice the groups that are attracted to them. And they feel most comfortable because there's either similarities or there's that connection or something.
Yeah.
Something there that resonates.
Yeah, it's clicking.
Yeah.
Your heart, my heart, the real namaste, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. And, and a lot of people will say when they first attend a yoga class, well, I didn't like that one or whatever. And I always say, well, try another one, try another teacher. Like, you will resonate with different styles, different teachers. I think that's important, because I'm sure you've had that experience where you've taken classes. And
having this accent, I'll say, if my voice is throwing you off, find another teacher. It's fine.
Yeah.
Because maybe a memory comes up of someone that had that voice, or someone, who knows what's going to click. But please keep looking.
Yeah.
And now,
important.
too, there's so many flavors out there.
Oh, totally.
So
totally,
you're going to find something that resonates, because it's good for everyone. Everyone's so stressed.
Yeah.
And I believe, and I really specialize in stress management. I got a couple certifications, blah, 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 blah. That's my thing, because I'm, I was the stress ball of the world before all this. And I'm like, yoga is stress management. Stress is a killer.
It is.
It's a killer physically, emotionally, mentally, energetically. It drains us. We can't function. It has more to do with how we look and feel than everything else put together.
Completely agree.
And here's a fun, enjoyable, easy thing that you can do.
Yeah.
You don't have to get so that you have to stand on your head to benefit. Which is why when people come, oh, I can't do yoga, I'm not flexible. I go, excuse me, can you play the piano? So you can't play piano, so you're not going to take lessons? This teaches you that stuff.
Yep. Yeah. It's amazing how people dismiss themselves so fast.
Oh, yeah, I'm not flexible.
Yeah. Well, and I think the media perpetuates that just a bit. And if you look at it, I swear every commercial has someone doing yoga in it, and perpetuates that what you should do. Or
and
look
what
like,
you look like.
Yeah, all of it.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, no, like anybody and everybody, and there's tons of different, like you said, flavors, and there's something for everyone out there.
Oh my God. And that's why to me the tradition has to stay alive, because this is not about fitness.
Yeah.
It's about wholeness. It's about love. It's about joy. It's about all these, things that it might sound a little woo-woo, but it's like that's the real deal here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
true.
yes, it makes you healthier. Yes, you get more flexible. Yes. But you want strength and flexibility. You want balance.
Yep.
So it's all about that stuff.
Yeah. Well, and going back to the wholeness, I was also talking this morning about telling a client, you're whole just as you are. And somebody said, people aren't really told that a lot. I mean, and that's why yoga is so important, because you get told that, you get reminded you're not broken, that
That's
you're
right.
actually doing something right, and you're not constantly doing something wrong.
And it's not a process of like this, do your best.
Yeah.
Self-improvement. I'm like, no, this is not about improving yourself. This is about finding that true self, accepting yourself, expressing yourself, because if you believe that we are expressions of God, then the good stuff is in there. We just have to, this is a process of filtering through and letting go. It's not of adding more. You're already there.
Yeah.
But all the stress and tension that are on top of all this block us from feeling that and knowing that, expressing that.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. And I think that's why yoga's been flourishing. And it's just exploded all over.
Oh yeah, people say, this is my church,
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, they need it, because so often we're just constantly the negativity, the fear, all of it's out there, and that just thrives on our own, fear and whatever else we've got, that we need to uncover.
Right.
And like going to yoga classes, like I mentioned, it's like that only place, not only, but one key place where you feel okay.
Right. And that's why we have to keep it from becoming one more thing that pulls you in as a consumer.
Yes.
And that's the fine line. That's the fine line. And I'm sure it's a bigger challenge for the studio owners.
Sure.
Because they got to pay the rent.
Sure.
And they got to pay the people. But this whole thing that our value in this culture is how much can you buy? How much are you worth?
Yep.
And that if you don't have that power, you're not good enough.
Yeah.
Well, we all have that little we're not good enough. And the media tells us in many ways we're not good enough so they can get our money.
Of course.
Or the media explains that message from.
Totally.
So we are consumers. And we want to be more.
Yep.
And be reminded that we are more.
Yes.
We don't have to wear the fancy clothes to class. We don't have to go to every workshop and fly to India to show we're worthy of this practice. I've had people, you haven't been? No, I haven't. I had no idea that the answer was in India.
Yeah. No,
I
the
mean,
answer's
lovely.
inside
Of course, I'd love to go there, but
Yeah.
That's not the deal.
No, yeah,
You
no,
know?
that's so funny that you say that. I'd actually never really had any interest in going to India until we had a senior Iyengar yoga teacher come in town for workshops, and I thought, oh, I'd go to his retreat center. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I have no interest in deepening my understanding of yoga or finding myself in India.
In India, you're here.
Yeah,
You're right here.
yeah. Well, because like that the old saying, I think it's a Buddhist saying of like, if you think you're enlightened, go spend time with your family.
I love it. Ram Dass.
Yeah, is it Ram Dass?
Yeah,
I just love that
it's
because
fabulous.
so true.
Oh, and I always say, what does your family think of this?
Yeah.
Or what, really behind the scenes, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Are you using your real voice, or are you making, the yoga person voice?
Yes.
All that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
You don't have to be.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
Well, let's talk about that more. I think that's important because people have this sense that they do for whatever reason, whether it's media perpetuates it or they go into a studio. I know that I get told, I've been in this place and I didn't feel like I belonged because I didn't look like this or wear this. And that's why I'm like, we're all different shapes and sizes here. And we, some of us wear sweatpants, and I have 71-year-old yoga teachers doing headstands, but you don't have to even do that.
Right.
Like,
Right.
So let's talk about that kind of thought process that, there can be these spiritual bypassing things. There can be this, well, I'm doing yoga, so I have to do that. I mean, I went through that.
Oh,
And,
God, yeah.
I love certain apparel and things, and then I was like, I don't need that. And I even hung out with people when I was doing more power vinyasa, and my practice has changed over the years. And I love that practice, but just my body's changed and needs something different. But I remember hanging out with a group of people. We always went, and we were kind of in this like yoga clique thing. What I realized was like, we're gossiping about other people. And I removed myself from that, and then I didn't have anybody to go do yoga with for a while.
Right.
But I was like, I'm having these formed opinions, but like, and I just removed myself because I didn't want to be a part of that anymore. But it's like it's just this natural, just like junior high or high school.
Yeah.
Like you want to fit in, you want to be good enough. So let's talk about a little bit about that. We don't have to go deep into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm a little removed from that because I've never taught in a yoga studio.
Ah, that's true.
I always have taught, because there weren't yoga studios when I started teaching. So I was teaching in churches and, rec rooms and wherever they'd have me. I do a lot of corporate to this day. That's still my people.
Yeah, yeah.
I have people in my class right now that have been in my class 21 years.
Oh, wow.
That's a cool thing.
That is cool.
Right?
Yeah.
And there again, it's like, if an 83-year-old woman can do a sun salutation, 5 of them, in fact, in my class, we flow.
Yeah.
Then, come on.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Right? They don't go to Lululemon. They don't worry about all that. Although I do like their pants.
I do like their pants.
I'm not
like
going to say anything
clothes.
against them.
No.
But you don't want to build it where that's got to be your uniform.
Exactly.
Or one more reason not to feel good enough.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. No, I totally love.
And I love that the studios offer different kinds of classes now. So it is a different population coming in and feeling more comfortable.
For sure.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to teach. The studios serve a purpose, and they're really great. But it's also important to teach at rec centers and community centers and gyms and churches and wherever, and share that you don't have to only teach at studios.
Oh, absolutely.
And
absolutely
and because you can reach. It depends who you want to reach.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you stand at a studio door, and I think of this a lot, and you see these beautiful people come in, because a lot of them are these really cute young girls and more fitness oriented. And I'm like, so that's real people. But go to Walmart and stand at the door. Those two are real people.
Exactly.
Everybody's in this together. We all have stress. We all have the same need. We all have the same questions.
Yeah.
All this.
Yep.
And it's for health. All kinds of health.
Yep. Yeah, I completely agree.
Functional fitness, not just the external.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, exactly. And everyone needs it. And I love that people are taking initiatives to share the practices beyond
Mm-hmm.
in all kinds of unique and interesting
Oh,
ways.
yeah.
It's
When I think of some of
amazing.
the places I've taught, it's hilarious.
Wait, why don't you
Yeah.
share that?
Oh, my God.
Yeah, share some of those funny
Oh,
places.
gosh. Impromptu. I don't know that I can think of things right now. But
Yeah,
I mean,
just-
it used to be that even in the corporation, so I go in a corporate, well, I don't know. So we'd have to call it stress release. Or
Yes, of
stretch and
course.
de-stress and all these kind of things. No space in the building, so we'd get there and have to move the conference table out into the hall, move all the chairs out in the hall, do the class, and then put them all back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it wasn't like anybody really cared about this class, but somehow it looked good on paper,
Yes,
you know.
yes.
But I mean, right now I'm in a place where I'm in the room behind a cafeteria in the corporate building, and they have private parties in there sometimes. So if there's a party scheduled, then we can't have yoga that week.
Sure.
But you got to go, through hallways and down the basement and all this to find the class.
Yeah, that reminds me of, like, we tried to offer a group class. So when I worked at Eskenazi, and it was in the lunchroom, and I was like, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
Because we'd have to kick people out trying to eat lunch and put signs on the door, and somebody'd forget. And I'm like, no, that just doesn't feel good to me.
Yeah.
Like, let's just not do this.
Not do this.
Let's do it a different way.
Right.
Because there was just no space.
Yeah. And one of my first classes I just remembered was at the YMCA downtown. This is like 22 years ago.
Yeah.
They put us in a room that was right over the beer garden. And it turned out that the time I put them in deep relaxation, which is I do a 15-minute yoga nidra at the end of each class, just about when I get them down there, the German band would start playing pa music. I mean, blasting it. So all we have to do is laugh.
Yeah, of course. What else can you do?
But it's like, what can you do? How do you, like, relax? You're screaming over the music.
Yeah.
So, it's all good, though. It's all fine.
Well, and, and that just goes to say, because some people will complain about distractions, and they think it's supposed to be completely quiet. And it's like, you can't control it. And that's what some of the teaching is. Like, you have to learn to be okay with some of that, because you can't control everything.
Right. And I'm like, if you can relax right now with that buzzsaw going on outside the room, what do you think life is?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Who lives in a little vacuum somewhere?
Exactly. I agree. So talk a little bit. I know you love Yoga Nidra and Semantics. And so let's talk a little bit about your love for Yoga Nidra. And then I want to hear more about Semantics and have you share that.
Well, when I first, we did the deep relaxation Yoga Nidra in the initial training I did with Himalayan Institute. But Swami Satchidananda, that's his thing. And he said, I don't care if you teach a half-hour class, hour class. Our classes were 75 minutes. Mine still are, most of them, because I can't skip that 15-minute deep relaxation. He said, this is what people need.
It is what people need.
This is what they need.
Yeah.
And so don't skip it.
Yeah.
And I took that to heart, and I have not skipped it. It's really crazy, because I just really, whatever seed he planted in me. And so through doing that so many times, so much all about that, you start looking into other things. And I kind of kept realizing the whole deal of, you got to keep them in their body. You got to keep them in their body. You got to keep them in the experience in this moment, or it's not happening. Because the brain has to connect to the muscles, and this has to happen, and all this is happening. And so we can guide them with our language. And then I started having my students get older. And my classes had to get gentler, and I had to start addressing fake hips and knees and this and that, and oh my God, right?
Learning on the fly.
So I was introduced to Semantics very briefly by Barbara Kennedy, who lives here. Little plug for Barbara. She's still teaching. But years ago, we traded a little chair yoga knowledge I had, because that was something I loved doing. And she showed me a little bit about Semantics.
Okay.
So fast forward so many 20 years, almost 20 years, I went and got trained, and I use it all the time, because I was using it a lot, and I realized for myself, my students need this.
Yeah, of course.
And every time I did something, they go, ooh, that felt good. That felt good. So I went off, and got official.
Yeah.
And now my class is kind of a mixture of
Okay.
somatics and yoga. And
Yeah.
the somatics I'm talking, like yoga is somatic.
Yeah.
You know, working from the inside out. It's all about sensation. But this Hannah somatics is what I'm specifically trained in.
Can you share a little bit about what that is for
Yeah.
the audience? Because they may not even know what yoga
Yeah.
is, which we shared today, but
Right.
they may not know what somatics is.
Yeah, Hannah somatics is a practice in which you can manage your pain. Because what you do, instead of like in yoga, we talk about stretching out the left side of the body when you're tight on the left side of the body. Somatics says, no, you go into the tension, you sense that with your mind and body, and then as slowly as possible, you work your way out to neutral again. So you're waking up a muscle by tensing it to feel it. Now the brain is back on board. Oh, there it is. Because they call it this thing, sensory motor amnesia. Like there's actually a lack of communication between the brain and the muscle and the brain. And this reestablishes that communication. And I've seen amazing things. And I use it. I have a horrible neck injury.
Oh, okay.
I refuse surgery for years now. And somatics helps me a lot.
Yeah.
In conjunction with my yoga. So to me, it's a perfect combination.
Yeah, I agree. I haven't studied Hannah somatics or any of that extensively, but just that approach. And I've worked with like that sensory motor amnesia, like, and different body work practices to help bring the brain body online.
Right.
And it's so important because that's what happens is like,
Key.
it's like, oh, yeah, we don't connect anymore, but bringing that connection, the body can heal itself.
Right.
And it just bringing some of those connections on and retraining the nervous system and all kinds of different things.
And that's why if you're doing your yoga and you're being guided into your body, into the experience, now the brain is on board. But if you're too distracted by what this looks like or the music being played, you're going to get a feeling that's really good in the moment, but you're not going to have that lasting benefit. You're not going to have the repatterning that is possible. My little cliche that I use is, why settle for cool when you can have healing?
Ah, I love that.
Because I mean that.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, this is all cool. This is fun. No doubt. It feels great. But you could have gone a little deeper and gotten way more.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why not?
Exactly.
And all it takes is cueing.
Yeah. I love that.
You know?
I think it's so important.
Yeah.
Because everyone needs that. Everyone needs a little healing, whether they find it in a yoga class or they go to practitioners.
Oh, yeah, whatever does it for you, go for it.
Yeah, because there's so many different things out there. That's one of the reasons I have this podcast, is to share it all.
So much. Because what works for you is not going to work for me. And the person that I connect with or not. I mean, let's face it, a clerk in a store can make your day.
Yeah.
By smiling genuinely.
Exactly.
And looking you in the face. And, you know, you can have a connection that's very healing.
Yeah, yeah.
Someone else can talk to you all day long, nothing.
That reminds me of a story when I worked at, my old work was all association management. And I happened to, before I really got older and deep into that career, I worked as a receptionist at an association. When I learned that was even a career path, like I didn't even know what it was. I was with a group, and I remember someone saying, "Oh, the mailman, he's so mean. We don't like he doesn't like us. We you know, blah blah blah." And all I remembered my Dale Carnegie stuff, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and I asked him his name. And he loved me from forever since then.
Connection.
And, it was connection.
Yeah.
And it was just sort of like, and I think someone was upset that I won him over. But it was sort of, that's not my issue, that's theirs. But it was just sort of like, that made his day, that someone cared about him and that there was a connection there. simple thing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think Dale Carnegie's stuff, or all that, but it's true.
It's just,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's true, and I think that's important.
Mhm.
Is there anything else you want to share? Anything that you
Yeah.
want? Our listeners are primarily women
Yeah.
all over, and some of them have done yoga before, some of them have not. Some of them are just learning about it by listening to the podcast. Some of them are this whole new world, this mind body stuff. Anything you want to share if someone was brand new trying to figure it out, or even maybe they're been in that physical fitness more world and looking for something a little deeper.
Yeah.
Some inspirational wisdom from Marsha.
Well, I would just say I have seen it do amazing things. Even the chair yoga is not for wimps.
Yeah.
It's powerful. I had an 86-year-old woman able to take off her back brace from chair yoga. I've seen people recover from surgeries very quickly from gentle, easy movement. We all sit too much, all of us. I've found that over the years. My people in corporations sit just as much as my people in the special needs group, or right? Everybody sits.
Yeah,
it's bad for you.
Yes, it is.
So if you're sitting a lot, no matter why, try yoga. Which means if you're breathing, try yoga. Find a teacher that makes you feel comfortable and welcome. And I think, if you're stressed, it's one way. I would just say give it a shot.
Yeah.
Because it's everywhere now. You probably can find a place between home and work, or your church, or your community center, or whatever. It's pretty much everywhere.
What about that intimidation factor? Because a lot of people think, oh, I'm not flexible enough. I'm not strong enough. I don't look like that. What would you say to those people out there?
Get over it.
I love that you're frank and to the point.
No, I mean, it's again, finding the right class. I always have the lights really dim. I play very gentle music in my classes because I found that's what makes my people comfortable. I teach mostly people 40 plus. They're not in there to show off their bodies or any of that. They want to just feel good. They want to go somewhere to chill out for a while. It always makes you feel better when you leave the room, and it gives you tools to use throughout the week. And even just having people compliment you on your posture when you're 80 makes your day, right?
Sure.
And they know it's from their yoga.
For sure.
And none of them are doing fancy things. I have never taken it to that level in my own practice. I can't do all those things.
Yeah.
And now that I have this neck injury, I get it.
Yeah.
I always say, no new pain in here. First rule in my classes.
Yeah, of course.
If it doesn't feel good, back off.
That's good.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's the rule. Go in, do what feels right. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it. Anyone makes you feel intimidated about that, that's not your class. Go find another one.
Exactly. Well, and there is something to say about, and people don't always realize this, especially if they're brand new to yoga or even brand new to teaching, is how simple movements, just moving, or simple breath work can be so life-changing. I experienced that with the veterans and teaching them over 3 years with Nancy Shaw.
Yeah.
And just seeing how their worlds changed.
Incredible.
I just love it. And I want people to know that.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to go do fancy flying arm balances.
No.
Like, gentle movements. Just move. Just breathe.
Right.
Have some deep relaxation. And how transforming it can be.
Totally. I do every class I start, because I have my group. The first half hour, we haven't even done anything but joint releasing. We're just juicing up the joints
Yeah.
and getting things moving,
Yep.
getting circulation going. That alone would be a powerful practice.
It is,
right?
because we get so tense in
my
the joints.
God.
And even when you go straight into a yoga practice, I was studying with Rodney Yee, and he was talking about more of the fluid movement in the joints. And because we just get so, even within a practice, which all yoga is great, but even within a yoga practice, we get more, it's all about the muscles and, and releasing the joints.
And you're compensating for the stuff you're holding unconsciously.
Yes.
You don't know it, but you are. So to go joint by joint and juice them up, you'll go, oh, my left shoulder's really kind of sore today. You wouldn't have maybe noticed that.
Yeah.
You would have bypassed it.
Yep, exactly.
Right? And that's where, to me, the somatic cueing comes in.
Yeah, that's important.
Let's send energy into that area that's tight, but let's not force it.
Yeah, I think that's important.
You know?
It's a important approach of not forcing, because we're in a go, go, go culture, it's got to be this way, I've got to do this. But getting that awareness of the body, there's a reason the left shoulder is tense and whatever today.
You're protecting something, so don't do that handstand today.
Yeah.
Hello.
Back off and let the ego go a little bit. So, that's important. So, good. Yeah. Anything else you want to share? Yeah,
that I really enjoyed this.
Good, I'm glad. I loved having
very
you
nervous
on.
about doing something like this.
Well, it's easy. I told you, just be a conversation.
No, it's great that you're doing this.
Yeah, well, thank you,
People
Marsha.
need
I
these
really appreciate it. Yes, so so if you're listening out there, I hope that you enjoyed the conversation today and the wisdom and insight that Marsha brings, not only to Indianapolis, but beyond, especially now with this podcast. And really knowing that if yoga is new for you, or any mind-body practices, that these are things that you can dip your toe in and try. And like Marsha said, get over it. Get over your own, your fear of what people might think, and just go try something. And if you don't like it, if you don't like the teacher, go try another class, go try another teacher. There are things online. There are teachers online. But doing something for yourself to help with stress management, to help relieve pain. We will include links to Semantics, to Marsha, you have a website, right? I would assume to Marsha's website, and anything else that we discussed on the podcast today. And if you have a chance, please write a review if you're listening on iTunes or Google Play, because that lets other listeners know what you think of the podcast, what you think of different episodes. We'll be back every Thursday with a new podcast. I'm your host, Alyssa Finning. Wild blessings.